Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be an interesting experiment if people actually like listening to how pros talk to other pros. Because when when I was just a nobody 20 at 24 Fitness, I was always wondering like how pros actually talk to each other, because like you look at these pros like a freaking idol and you have questions in your head that you want to ask, but then when you go and meet them in person, you're like, hey, well, it feels like your question is essentially irrelevant, right? But then when you hear pros talk to other pros and they just get along so well, you're like, what the hell is that? What are they talking about? Like, I want to learn stuff like that. I'll be able to just communicate with them too. And then the more I invited pros and started talking to them, like we literally just are normal human beings and we can talk to each other like normal persons. And we talk about either fitness stuff or pain stuff or whatever it is. But then we also talk about life and mindset and just like conversations that we have with everybody. So that's what I was super interested about. So like whoever wants to watch this and see how we actually just talk to each other, like, yeah, I'm just curious to see what people think.
Well, that's the interesting thing that I've noticed about my podcast, especially recently,
Yeah.
is now our schedules aren't as stringent. So our conversations are going way long. So I'm having to like cut people off. Like at an hour and a half, I'm like, hey, we got to stop or I'll just talk all day. Nobody wants to listen to a 6-hour podcast about stuff.
Oh man.
Well, we set the record there. What did we have, like an hour and a half or 2
No,
hours?
so you and Colleen had an hour and 40 minutes or something like that.
Gosh, that's
I know.
I actually I said it to some people and they're taking like 2-3 sessions to listen to the whole thing through. I'm like, man, that's further than I would have gotten, I think. I don't know.
I know. So I've been struggling to try and keep it at an hour.
Yeah.
I can actually relate to that. Same thing here. Everything's been going over an hour.
Yeah.
Hour 20, hour 30. I had one last week, but most of who I interview are, movement people or neurologists or whatever. But I also have a former life of being a musician. It's an hour and 57 minutes with one of my favorite drummers on the planet.
That's awesome.
I don't know if anyone's actually listened to the whole thing because it's freaking long, but
yeah,
it's been interesting for me at least.
We just got off a phone call that I thought was going to be an hour long, and it went to an hour and a half, and we only stopped because of this meeting.
Yeah. And we decided, like, okay, so we're going to do part 2 next week, which is probably another hour and a half.
I heard Dr. Perry interview Dr. Eric Cobb and immediately wanted to get that guy on my podcast. And so the day I scheduled him is the day that he released a Z Health online course. And so me and my wife just watched 4 hours of that. And then I interviewed him for an hour and 20 minutes. And he's like, do you have any questions? I'm like, I can't even think anymore. I don't know. My brain's just shut down. So we're canceling.
That's Z Health has a deep rabbit hole, my man. You get lost in there quick, fast, and in a hurry, And I think the podcasts are like a therapy session for everyone. You just want another human to talk to besides the people in your house. So,
amen.
Oh man,
very true.
Yeah, and my wife was watching all the Z Health videos with me, and she's like, "You're taking all of these courses," and I'm like, "Ooh, that's a lot. That's 11 courses. That's a lot."
That's a lot of brain cells right there. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want me to do it, I'm in. So let's get there.
Oh, okay. If you force me to learn, I will. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. This is so fun.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, like, it's like essentially open conversation for everything. If people would just want to chime in, you can chime in. To avoid feedback, like mute if you're just like listening and stuff, and when you want to talk, then just like open it up. But yeah, like the main thing I kind of want to talk about is just like how people are dealing with the new era of like life right now, and like what do you foresee that's happening? Like I don't want to talk too much about politics because I feel like that can go for like 10 hours straight, and like
that'll never go wrong.
So let's just shoot the shit and see like how people are handling things, and like are you doing anything more creative now than you ever did, because like it's forcing you to do stuff that you typically wouldn't have even thought about, right? So I'm really curious to see like if we can open up the conversation to that and see like who is able, like what happens from there.
So I'm really focusing on online stuff right now. So I've been doing a lot of mobility classes online that I'm going to start charging for. May 1st. So people have basically had like a month and a half for free. And what I'm really working on right now is starting a online massage therapy coaching program, because there's a bunch of massage therapists that I know that don't have the tools to do these online consults. And so I'm going to start working on that here probably tomorrow. But it's really interesting. Dennis Dunphy, what's up, man?
Dennis, what's up, dude? There he is. Look at you with your fancy background. I love it.
Well, it gave me the option.
Yep.
Does anybody else have the option?
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, I thought it was going to look really crappy, but that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, it cuts it out pretty decently. I was thinking of being cheesy, but I've spent so much time like putting up the tapestry on my background, so I was like, fuck it, I'm leaving it.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah, you can do some crazy, weird shit if you really wanted to.
That's awesome.
I think you can make your own background too.
Makes me look like I'm sitting in the garden that I'm building, the raised garden with the telephone poles.
Carl, isn't that your normal backyard anyway?
Well, I've been carrying heavy things around the yard, and like these heavy object carrying workouts are freaking awesome, man. I swear I'm getting stronger the past 3 weeks because I'm just carrying telephone poles chopped up, of course. Great.
That's awesome.
Have you been karate chopping them?
I've had the axe and the chainsaw out. Yeah, definitely. It's cool.
Actually, as for movement pros, I'm very curious, like how many of you actually got more motivated to move and work out like as soon as like the lockdown hit?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. Yeah. I lost all motivation like from day one. I was just like, shit. I thought it was going to be a really great opportunity. I'm like, sweet, now I have time. I'm closing my gym. I can film more videos. I can do more movements and stuff. And then like 2 weeks went by and I was like, I didn't fucking do anything. Like I didn't want to do shit for the longest time. Like just to, I think like I just needed to process all of that. But then other people like, Carl, like what motivated you to actually do more stuff?
Oh, well, so back in December, I had a delayed, it finally happened, a hip replacement. Supposed to happen last summer, but I had some issues going on with, blood clots and all that. But anyways, the hip replacement has really changed my life completely. And I can't even tell you how good I feel and how much better I'm moving. And I, shed some of that extra. It just seems like at 59 now, the frickin' belly it's really hard to make it be small all the time, flat. But I'm able to move better. And about a week after they closed the gym that I was working at Syracuse University, which is only part-time, but I had, a lot of clients, a lot of hours, and I'm writing a book and all sorts of stuff. I said, I don't even like going to a gym and working out. I mean, and if anyone does, that's totally fine. You have to do, I think, what you like to do, and then you're more likely to do it. But I'm really finding that it's been very beneficial. I'm very lucky. I have a nice place on a dirt road in central New York. 4.5 hours from New York City. Well, Perry, you used to live about a mile from me in Village Green.
I did. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
We have cornfields around the corner. And so I live in that type of environment, and I've just been carrying heavy shit around and rototilling and gardening, and I'm feeling way stronger and better. And that has motivated me to keep going and doing these things. Also, I'm hitting the trails a lot on my bicycle every day. And I did it because if I didn't do something, I would go crazy. And it's a time to reevaluate, and when I do things like that, I can also think and meditate at the same time, and that's just kept me going. I guess maybe I'm lucky. I got started. I like what I do now, and I keep doing it.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Russ? I saw you raise up your hand there as well. You motivated to move more?
Well, I've always, since I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2016, I've always been in like kind of unique situation where, and also I'm specializing in, working with people with Parkinson's. I've been in this unique situation of, I'm kind of like my own test lab. And but my day was, before the lockdown, most of the clients I had were kind of like mid-morning, midday. So I'd be like in and out of the house. And I think my own regimen suffered a little bit. And now that I'm, home full time, what I decided I was going to do is finally do what I wanted to do and try to find the optimum workout, at least for me, that had a little bit of everything, to benefit, people with Parkinson's. So I'm still tweaking it, but I'm having a blast doing it. Basically, what it's a mix of like three main themes. One day, I do like a peripheral hard action. I try to get cardio in almost every day, but I'm doing it mostly with working out. I do a peripheral hard action workout, so it's really mostly like a strength circuit. But I'm going from one thing to the next, quick enough to get my heart rate up. And then the other workout I have is I call more of a mobility workout with, kind of like animal flow stuff and agility and balance and things like that. And my third one is kind of like the fun stuff, like dancing, shooting baskets, and then that type of stuff. So I'm having fun, and I'm seeing good results. I've already recently I eliminated one medication because I'm producing more of my own dopamine there. So I was getting freezing at night in bed, where I got to the point where I couldn't move well, and actually it was before I went to see Karl and I went together to Toronto for a workshop to teach the Parkinson's regeneration training workshop. I made a call to my neurologist and said, look, I'm afraid I'm going to be in the hotel room and I'm going to be frozen. I'm not even going to be able to move. So I asked for some extended release levodopa at night. So I get through that. So I had been taking that since the fall. But now that I've really worked my core, my mobility, my movement and everything, I'm more mobile in bed, and I eliminated that. I don't need it anymore.
That's awesome,
dude.
Nice.
And hopefully I'll pass some of this stuff along to clients, but I'm also transitioning more to a mode where I'm more of a coach, and I'm going to try to recommend other trainers and do more advocacy. And I guess that's another change with being home. I'm going to try to put out more videos and online content and stuff like that.
Awesome.
If you don't mind me, just for 20 seconds max, is first of all, Russ and I have done a lot of traveling and teaching together of the course that I started the course, but really it's evolved because of people like Russ and Ruben, who's on the call, my brother from another mother.
Hey, Ruben.
Jackie, Andy. But also, we did an interview a couple days ago that's over an hour long, and if you want to get motivated, once I post it, just watch what Russ has to say, because he actually motivates me to move. I'm beyond 20 seconds. The only thing I forgot to tie in is the other reason I'm doing the stuff I'm doing is because I can, because my hip doesn't hurt anymore. It's all gone. But exactly. I still need motivation. Like Russ will motivate me. He has Parkinson's, I don't. So what's my excuse? Fuck it. Get moving.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic that I like to talk about rehab-wise, right? Because so many of us, we get into this realm and we're like, oh yeah, surgeries are bad. No one ever get hip replacements. There's so many exercises you can do to prevent that. But a lot of the times when people get a hip replacement, pain is gone, for so many of the population. But for others, it hurts even worse, and they have less range of motion than they did before their hip replacement. So it's shit, when is it right for us to give recommendations for the patient to choose they need to do it or not? Or does anybody have feedback on that? What they could say to either oh my God, how do you word it? To either say, yes, go for it, and then we can get you stronger after, or I don't recommend it because there's so many other options we can try. Does that kind of make sense? Because Karl, what have you tried before that just did not help with your hip, with everything that and people that you work with?
There's really only 2 physical therapists in my area of Syracuse who and as far as I mean, there's only two I know. I mean, there could be more, but I only know two who really understand movement the way a lot of you all do. And so I chose one of them mainly because he was more available. Our schedules worked better. And I did a lot of PT with him. I also had, I almost feel guilty saying this, I had a cortisone shot that lasted, it was amazing, for about 3 minutes. And then it didn't work. And my son is a doctor, and I asked him, why am I wanting to eat all the time? Well, cortisone can kind of make you want to do that. So I put on some weight. And then, so I did a lot of PT. And I went to Perry. Remember Perry when I came down to see you?
I do, yes.
And then I ran like 13 miles the next day.
Yeah.
That's also like 3 or 4 years ago, before it was worn down so much.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
So what you did for me, that was unbelievable. I was literally on the top of a hill, just like doing a Facebook Live, being ridiculous. But I think when you look at an MRI, or you look at an X-ray and an MRI, and there is actually no labrum left, there's no cartilage, it might be time to do something. And I can say that the surgeon that I have is known as one of the best ones, in that he waited almost 2 years before he would allow me to do it. I wanted it before he would do it. And then that's how I made my decision. I think I exhausted pretty much everything I could, except for one thing that Steve Murata wanted to show me. But by that time I was going into surgery in a couple days. So Yeah, Perry.
So what was your opinion about that, and and what did you do with Karl's hip that made him feel so good that time?
Well, honestly, I mean, I have a lot of surgeons that I know and work with, and they all tell people, listen, it's really comes down to your quality of life and when you're ready to do it, because many people have bone to bone and they don't feel anything. And then other people are in excruciating pain and I just can't take it anymore. And then you have so many factors of, well, how old are they and when are they going to have to get another one later? But most great surgeons will tell you it depends on your quality of life and how much you can deal with. Yeah. But sometimes you got to get it. You got to get it. And that's its role.
So what's your opinion about when it's bone on bone and people don't feel pain? Like, what does that typically mean?
Oh, that's not complicated at all. That one. Yeah. That's just pain science 101. It doesn't equate to tissue damage, brother. You know that. So, it's so individual, right? But I think we just did a lot of outside the box stuff with Karl. Of course, we didn't just focus on the hip, which is a big one when we did that. And I think I blasted you with an ungodly amount of laser energy at the time. And
there were like 26 or 28 on me.
Yeah.
Well, when I stood up, it was, I couldn't believe I didn't have pain. I was ready to cry,
Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah, and then I saw when you did you freaking actually did run 13 miles. I was so pissed at you.
You told me to not overdo it, but I didn't feel like I was, and I was okay for a while after that. Though I was okay, but not, it didn't last for. Just going into the hip surgery. I'll mention this. I did a ton of prehab. And the surgeon really appreciated the amount of muscle he had to cut through. And I was back to work 3 weeks to the day after the surgery. Yeah, I had a cane I would use here and there, but I was back to work, and it has completely changed my life.
Awesome.
Andy, let me weigh in a little bit on this, because I've worked with so many pre and post hip replacements.
Mm-hmm.
I really try to frame it for people to think about how prepared they are for a surgery. The more prepared they are, the more mobility, the more strength, the more coordination, the more likely they won't need the surgery, and the more results they'll get if they do get that surgery. So everyone wants to think about it in different ways. Quality of life, their emotional, let's say, assumption of surgery, is it good or bad? How that's going to convey in the next 10, 15 years of their sport in golf or who knows what. But at the end of the day, people need to really hear it over and over again, that the more they do for themselves to prepare or improve, the more they'll get success later in life, surgery or no surgery.
I love it. That's really, really good way to put it.
Yeah, that's great.
You have to train for surgery just like you train for anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's such an important conversation that all pros need to hear, because ultimately, like, it doesn't matter whether you have surgery or not. What happens is that, like the preparation, but like the preparing it's a neuro tag, right? It's like, hey, you're prepping that for success, placebo or not, because there's so much studies that, with the people with lower back pain and all of that stuff, and they did a placebo surgery versus a real surgery to like fuse the discs and all of that type of stuff. Like the results were equal. Like the success rate was virtually almost exactly the same for the people who had a placebo dummy surgery for people who didn't have that dummy surgery. And you're like, what the hell? Like, so essentially the mind has to be ready for it. And if us as coaches can lead them to have that mindset that, hey, they're ready for it and it's actually going to work, then the chance of it actually working exponentially increases, or the chance of them, or the speed of recovery will also increase a lot faster. So that's awesome.
Most of the surgeries out there are unnecessary. Like, it's like a very archaic way of thinking about putting the body back together, right? Like surgeons, like it's like anybody else. Like people only know who to go to because of what somebody else told them, and if nobody tells them differently, then they keep doing that. And so like the old school of thought is, if something's broken, you go to the medical doctor or you go to the surgeon. And the medical doctor has been put on such a pedestal that like people don't realize that they're doctors of medicine, meaning that their answers for everything is medicine and pills and pharmaceuticals, right? They don't recognize that doctors of psychology, right? Doctors of internal medicine, doctors of everything else, doctors of physical therapy are also still doctors. And they're not put on the same pedestal as the medical doctors. And even with like the surgeons, people are like, oh yeah, surgeons are great and all that stuff. They'll have the answers for everything. This surgeon tells me that I need surgery. Well, no shit, because that's all they know how to do, because that's what they were taught to do, right? But the general population does not, and actually even a lot of the medical population does not understand that the body is not a machine, right? We are very complex beings that are put together in ways that we have no idea how it is, but we know that things all relate, and that just because one thing is broken doesn't mean that if you fix that one thing, that it's fixed, right? Karl and I were just talking earlier about, like, if your shoulder hurts, it might not be your shoulder. It might be stemming from your hip, but the hip might not be a hip problem. It might be stemming from like an appendix surgery that you had when you were 12. And the appendix surgery might not be from the actual appendix. It might be from a microbiome issue that you had before. And that microbiome issue might be handed down from you from generations before. So it's like, you don't know what the actual issue is, but if you treat the body like a machine, you're going to keep going back for repairs instead of allowing the systems to work together, synergistically. I'm like, wait. But yeah, allowing all the systems of the body to work synergistically together to flourish as its ecosystem versus just parts and pieces. So like, I work with a lot of people with scoliosis, right? And one of the most common things that people that you'll see with scoliosis is that it's either surgery or shitty rehab, right? They're like, it's either surgery or some type of like shitty physical therapy, right? And like a lot of them don't work for most of the people. Like it only puts a spine in a somewhat broomstick straight position, but it doesn't fix any of the other problems. Like people are getting more pain and more discomfort after the surgery because they didn't fix the original reason why they got scoliosis, and that's part of the reason why I have that course that I have for scoliosis, even though you can use it for anybody, is because there's not enough resource, like there aren't enough good resources for people who have scoliosis to get any sort of a decent answer, and yeah. I personally wish that like more people would start to see that. And I'm really thankful and grateful that I'm in this network of out of the box thinkers like you guys, to where we can spread the message that, hey, your elbow doesn't hurt because of your elbow hurts because of something else. Go look at all these other things. Go open your mind. Go explore, because all the shit that you saw in sci-fi is real.
That's right.
Right? All the stuff that you see in like these like magical fairy books with, you know, wizards and witches and space aliens and whatever, like, you know, how there's more than one universe, whatever. All this shit is real. I don't care what you believe, it's real, right? Like you can't disprove something. You can't prove that something doesn't exist, right? So open your minds and just explore it and just see what happens. And that's just kind of what it is. Just see what happens, but don't like butcher something up just because someone told you to, because that's the only answer that they had, right? If you don't like someone's answer, you go somewhere else, right? It's like how we make our friends. You start having conversations with them. If you don't like what they say, you don't have to agree with them. You go somewhere else.
Yeah, get it, Jackie Woo.
As you guys probably already know.
Yeah.
So my question is, as a community, right? Like, it's obviously the medical industry that needs to shift. So, and all of us are part of the outside of that true medical industry, but what is your opinion of like a better strategy than to bluntly just attack that system, or like complain about it, or, you know, say that there's nothing that we can do to change it? Like, I'd like to know, like, what are the other feedbacks of like, what is it that we can actually do that will change the system at some point in time or impact it? Like, this is definitely one of them, but like, is there, what are the opinions?
So funny enough, I was taking primal movement chains from Dr. Perry down in Phoenix, and we asked him that very question. And so he said,
this should be lovely. I don't know what I said. So.
Yeah, he said, you got to start with the outliers and work your way in, which is what we're doing.
Okay, good. That sounds actually pretty good. Yeah.
I was nervous there for a second, but
it could have been one of my rage moments you caught me in. I don't know.
So funny, but anyway, so it's funny because everybody, like most of the people on here, say this stuff that just cements in my brain, and that was just like something that Dr. Perry just passively said, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna keep that in there forever. But, you know, like just the list of practitioners that are thinking outside the box, like Jackie just went on her epic rant about, is growing substantially all the time. And so the more info that we put out there with podcasts and group meetups like this, or education courses or whatever it is, then we'll start to overwhelm everything else, and then we'll start to make a change that way. So we just have to, you know, it's like similar to like one of the things that Jackie said, where sometimes people come in and they're like, oh, I have elbow pain. And you're like, well, it's not actually your elbow. And then they get really pissed off at you. Well, it is my elbow. And I'm like, cool. So let's talk about why you're angry at your elbow. Like, because that's probably why your elbow hurts, you know, and we just got to keep working diligently to help people understand that the human that you're looking at in front of you is the human you're looking at in front of you. And all of the stuff is all the stuff, and all the stuff works together, you know. And I think Perry's doing a good job of that, saying, hey, you notice all this stuff that's by all your lymph nodes? Those are blood vessels and veins. And there's nerves by there too. And then those connect to like the muscles and and then they innervate with all your organs. And it's weird. So like if you address this stuff, then this stuff starts to feel better. And, you know, it's just, so we just got to keep doing what we're doing, I think.
You know, there was something, I think Dr. Perry might have said something to this effect about forget your diagnosis. Because, you know, like a lot of the mainstream medical community is there's a diagnosis and then the pill to take, or the diagnosis and the operation. And at a gathering of people with Parkinson's, I was asked to speak briefly. It was a particular program that I was going to, and I said something similar to that effect. But basically, to keep an open mind about unlimited things that you know you could do, And basically, people with Parkinson's and other chronic diseases, I said, we're all one big inflamed mess, hot mess. So you got to look at, you got to look everywhere, and you can't just, when a doctor says, oh, it's the Parkinson's, there's nothing you could do. Don't fall for that. Just
get another doctor.
Look everywhere and find somebody who will help you look everywhere.
I have a thought, Andy.
Chopra that said that is like accept the diagnosis but not the prognosis.
Yeah.
I think that was the
I
guy.
think it was Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, Deepak Chopra. Yeah.
Yeah. Carl, did you have something to say? You said.
Yeah. So I think one thing we've seen a little bit at workshops I've taught around the world, pretty much everywhere outside of the United States, not so much here at all, is medical professionals attending. Mexico, Ruben taught in Mexico last month. Ruben, did you have any medical professionals there?
No, not this time. It was just patients and caregivers.
Okay. Yeah, we've had some very good reception in Europe and South America, and Singapore was good too. And then Mexico's been good. And so education really is I think it's crucial that if you get some medical professionals who come in and they see the value, they first of all have some kind of an understanding, or it's like we're teaching them. They're the doctors. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy. But still, I get to hang around with all you people, right? And there's a lot of information they can learn from us, and then we can maybe start to work together. I think that was our 8th workshop, well, more than that, in Mexico in 2 years. Hell, I was there 7 times in 1 year, 2 years ago. But we keep getting invited back, and then there are more medical people who show up. Now, on a different thing, just real short, here on a local level in Syracuse, this is not easy, okay? But I work primarily with people with learning disabilities and movement disorders, and within movement is mostly Parkinson's, about 80%. But I started doing some of these standardized fall risk assessment tests, like, just the Berg balance test. Go on and do the Berg balance, and then it's got a standardized scoring system, and you implement it a certain way. And a few days before they go to the neurology appointment, every damn time, which is usually once a year. That's why it takes 3 years to get anything going with a doctor. But a lot of there's only like 4 neurologists here in my city anyways that deal with Parkinson's. And one of them finally started referring his patients to me because he saw that people were moving better, and the scores were improving on most of people's Berg balance tests. And, that's a simple way to do something real quick. Send in a report with your client or patient to their neurologist, have them take it in, and they might not even look at it. But once they do and they see the changes and they're doing their own, they hardly do anything, maybe a pull test and a couple things. That's helped educate a little bit in that community here, and then they refer people to me, and it's slow, man. No, it's slow.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
What I'm frustrated about, like how slow it actually is.
Oh God,
like,
yes.
we do things fast, right? Like we can poke on something, and if it's the right thing, we're like, shit, like pain's gone. What the fuck just happened? But it doesn't always happen for so many people, and I want to be one of those people that helps speed up that process. And it sucks that it's a system that's flawed, that's slowing things down, and one person has to jump through 20 different hoops until they find people like us that might have a chance to help. And we have to jump through a couple of hoops to find who's in our network that can help them as well, right? So it's like, oh god damn it, it's frustrating. But coming back to that, I feel like this is an interesting point. So Perry mentioned start from the outliers and work our way in. And Carl, you hit that nail on the head, is that if we're the outliers, and working our way in is getting to the doctors, right, who have essentially more power than we do. But what if those doctors start learning the stuff that we learned, exactly like our courses and stuff, who goes back to the colleges and start doing research to change the college educational system, so that all the students will be learning the stuff that we learn, or at least give them options for them to choose like which route they want to go through. And then based on that, then the insurance system will realize that there is actually money from doing all this shit from the inside out. And then that maybe the insurance company will be like, you know what? It is about money, and we can get money not from just a quick cortisone shot or something, but maybe the other stuff that might be able to work too. And ultimately, there's a lot of us, and they might be able to make even more money than just mass producing pills and stuff. So I'm curious, like, if that strategy going from the outside in, like, we'll be able to fix shit from the inside out. Because holistically, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Start from movement from the outside in, and then that will help also clear stuff from the inside out.
So I think that's going to be, I think it's going to be a process where, like, because all of us are super busy and super dedicated and really trying really hard to get information out there the best way that we can. So I think it's going to be one of those things where we stop, look around, and be like, oh, there's amazing stuff happening all of a sudden. But it's really, you know, like I talked to Perry about on the podcast that I had him on was, you know, let's talk about your 10-year overnight success. I think it's going to be one of those type scenarios.
Yeah, that's cool.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm really honestly shocked, Karl. I thought that since that is such a focused group with the Parkinson's, that your work would have just, maybe for lack of a better term, gone viral, like exploded and been embraced by everyone in there once they've seen like your keynotes and stuff that you've done.
Everywhere outside the U.S. Yeah, everywhere outside.
Why do you think that is in the U.S.?
A bunch of stubborn assholes.
Stubborn, I don't know, slow to change.
My son would tell you that he's a doc. So I'll brag for 1 second. My son Nick is MD PhD. He's third-year residency at Emory in Atlanta, but he gets all this stuff. He actually wanted to join this call today when he's working a shift. But anyways, he will tell you how rigid the medical community education is. I mean, they don't even learn anything about nutrition other than one course. This like they don't learn about human movement and biomechanics here. But over in Europe, the first time I went to Europe and taught, I almost shit my pants because all these people are, actually the first place is Dubai, and I'm in Dubai, I'm like, oh my God, these people know so much. I am like, if I didn't have a niche, I have no business being here. And so I love going to Europe because, well, Andy, I think you wanted to train in Europe, didn't you, or something? Because, I mean, look at the level of trainer that comes to any workshop in Europe. For me, anyways, that's my experience. The level of physio there. And we've had medical people there too. And that's why, and I'm the last person, I'm not bragging, but being a keynote speaker in Rome and in London and in Paris and in Cordoba, South America. I mean, never in the United States. And it's always a medical thing, like a neurology conference or keynote speaker at a neurology. I don't even have a degree of any kind. And I'm not bragging. I would never do that. But they get it over there or down there. But here, it's just a different system. It's a completely different mentality that I don't know how we can change it, but I really would love to quickly.
Yeah, because Perry, Dennis, like you guys teach internationally too, right? Do you see that as well? Like US people, like it's harder to sell tickets or registrations in the US versus other countries?
Well, I mean, I find when I've traveled outside of the US, I found them inherently more open-minded to different ways of looking at things. So I think that in itself opens it up for more people to check things out that would be outside of their normal wheelhouse, right? And that's been pretty. And they're really smart cookies, man. You got to be on your on your game for sure. And I love it because they ask questions, and I'm like, damn, man, I really got to think about that one. That's a good one, right? And I leave definitely smarter than when I came in. I can tell you that much.
Interesting.
I love that.
Yeah, there seems to be a greater interest in seeking out new information that we tend to not. We don't foster that type of mentality here in the United States. I feel that our secondary level of education is, for the most part, indoctrinates a feeling of arrogance, superiority, that I have everything I need and there's nothing you can provide me. And so you hear that through the questions that are asked by the attendees. And just like Perry said, the types of questions, the ones that get you thinking from a speaker perspective that you normally don't get over here. So I think there's just different facets. But I think our job, I really think is, as a whole unit, I kind of look at us as a group of kind of being the foundation to setting the foundation, because it's going to be such a long process to get early adapters, to cultivate early adapters so that they can grow in numbers and then start to slowly change the entire system. But to be very frank and honest, in my opinion, none of us will be here on walking this earth when the system gets to a point that I think all of us would like to have.
So speaking on just stick mobility in general, like we were trying to host one of your courses at our facility up here in Flagstaff, and I went around to every single gym, probably 15, 20 gyms. And everybody was like, well, we just have these PVC pipes. And I'm like, I know this is better. And they're like, we got PVC pipes though. And I'm like, okay. All right. You know,
yeah, it is what it is. And so I think one of the things that I've had to learn myself over the last 3 or 4 years, especially, was really being told by, we have Alistair Nickel in our company, and he heads our marketing and branding. And he said, Dennis, you have to stop wasting energy trying to convert people. He's like, you have a ton of people out there that get what you're teaching. They love it. They want it. They get it. Focus all your energy on those early adapters. And then that's where everything starts to grow. But if you start to try to convert all these people that are putting up that have barriers and have walls, you're going to burn yourself out. And that's something that it's taken me a couple of years to really lock in on that, and it's been for the better. So yeah, it's really changed the way I feel and the amount of energy I have to put into other things, for sure.
You might want to keep that guy around. He's pretty smart.
Yeah. Oh no,
well,
for sure.
Dennis, that's actually really profound, because two things real quick. Jackie and I were talking earlier. I discovered that too. I think it's just putting so much effort and energy into trying to show the value in what we have. Because, when people show up, I mean, it changes their lives. But, I mean, how can I say that without, actually, Andy, you helped me with this back in January, because I was starting to get a little aggressive with some of my marketing, and I was actually kind of pissed. So I don't think the marketing came across too well. But then I just decided, fuck it. I really did. I just fuck it. It's not that I didn't care. The good news is, this is the other flip side, is those who do show up, no matter where we are. So those who show up in the United States, they're there for a reason. I'm really glad they're there. You know what I mean? So there's no conversion going on there. And I'm glad if it's 8 people and we can make ends meet, break even. I'd rather make money, but at this point, we're still new and young and developing. And Dennis, thanks. Yeah, the energy thing is huge.
So,
gotta save it.
That's great.
So
I
that's
feel like it will make us. Oh, sorry, Jesse. Yeah, I feel like a lot of times it's the narrative that we have when we're getting into these things and how we're promoting and marketing. Like the conversation I had with Karl, it was essentially, it's not like just saying, hey, our shit is the best. This is what we do. This is what you'll learn, blah, 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 blah. It's mainly like, hey, here's a person with X, Y, and Z problems. She's tried this whole list of stuff, and that has still not worked. And there was other things that she knew was out there that she just could not find until she found Karl or one of us or whatever it is. Based on that, this is what they did that was outside the normal realms of whatever it is. And then results started showing up, or it was instant or whatever it is. And then that's how they changed someone's life. So if we reverse that narrative to say that we are the best at this, it's just saying, hey, no, like you've tried all of this stuff. We just do the shit that you've never done because like that's the thing that you haven't found yet. And if we alter that narrative and maybe just a tiny little different way, it's going to hit those people who are more early adopters or who are on the brink of like trying something, but they're just hesitant. But that story just hits their heart because it's talking to them as an individual. And they're like, oh, holy crap. Okay, maybe it's time for me to shift my mindset and try this out instead of just saying, oh no, like that's not proven or whatever it is. Like,
So that's interesting because it's all about looking at people's drivers. And so, because there's people that come in and they're just like, well, nobody's been able to fix me. And you're like, okay, well, let's see what we can do then. And you're probably not going to be able to do anything because they're convinced that nobody can help them. And so there's other practitioners out there as well that are they just shrug their shoulders and like, well, couldn't help that person. But then there's the few that are like us where we're like, God damn it, I couldn't help that person. And then so every single course that I go to, like I point and I'm like, you need to come in on Monday. You need to come in on Monday because I have those people just burning a hole in the back of my brain. And so all of these people that are on this call right now are those type of people where just get so aggravated that we can't help people that we start seeking anything and everything that we know or that we can to acquire the knowledge to help the people or understand if those people are, like most specifically me, beyond my pay grade. And so if they're beyond my pay grade, then I have enough knowledge and enough education to refer them out and talk to those people and understand that if they're full of shit or not, which is really helpful.
It is. And by the way, that going back to that narrative real quick, here's my excuse. I was on oxys from the hip replacement because I had so much pain. And I was pissed. It showed up in my marketing. So don't do marketing when you're on oxys. I'm just saying, don't do marketing when you're taking oxys.
Oh, man.
Well, it's like that narrative we tell ourselves. We always focus on the ones that we didn't help, right? And as opposed to all of the fantastic changes we made in so many lives. And we have to do that. I love the word reframe. You just have to switch the way you're looking at things, and it makes all the difference. Yeah, I've suffered that, honestly, Dennis and part of my early years of just trying to convince everybody to come to the courses or go to here. And when it's a universe thing, an energy thing, when I stopped stressing about that stuff, it just started to happen. And it put your energy in the right direction. It just flows effortlessly on its own. I'm sure there's some great Bruce Lee quote there. I just don't know what it is. But water in the cup. That's what it is.
Well, water, because he said be water. Because water, water finds an obstacle. Well, it conforms. It either goes around, under, through, or through. But it has the ability to adapt to whatever obstacle it encounters. And so it's very true, and even from when it comes to the clinical side, the thing that I found is really beneficial, and it's just my time. But I'll tell somebody, I'll be like, hey, do me a favor. I'll set aside an hour for you. I want you to come into the facility. Just let me show you some stuff. And especially if they're a surgeon, I'll say, hey, come in, let me show you some stuff. And just introduce them to something out of the box. And just say, you know what, professional courtesy, here you go. Give me an hour. Let me know what you think. And then at the end of the hour, when, most people are like, that was good. I like that. Okay, cool. Now you know what I'm about. And now, for me, it's just I've planted that seed in that clinician's head to go, whoa, this is something that is completely different than a different approach than I would have taken. And so I think that helps really break down that experience, that personal experience and that feel is what really starts to break down those barriers or those walls that were established in the first place.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to do, reaching out. And within my community, I just recently talked to probably one of the brightest DPTs in my county. And he was in alignment with all the things that I do. And he says, I've been looking for somebody like you for years, because I'm afraid that I'm going to send one of my clients, one of my patients that, I'm really protective over. I'm going to send them to someone that's going to fuck them up. And I don't do that with people. And that's the unfortunate part is a lot of, trainers and coaches, they have that bad reputation because they're just kicking the shit out of people, where that's not what I do. So I've been starting to reach out to the community, different doctors and physicians that work, in pain clinics, and trying to invite them in so that they can have a session with me, not just to enhance my business, but for them to be able to have a resource to be able to refer their clients out once they get out of their clinic, so that they can go beyond what they just did within their clinic. Because I think that's also a big part of that, where people put all their trust into a physician, and once they're done with them, they're done, and they can't get any better. Where there's people like us, the outliers in the industry, that can help people go beyond what their doctors have showed them. So I'm starting to reach out to the community just so I can start to impact other people's lives and let those doctors know there's another resource that you can tap into outside of what your knowledge is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Get it, Joe.
I like that, man.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah. Man.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think tying both of those in, where we're reframing and then also connecting with other professionals for clients. I think one of the things, like, we're all healthcare professionals and we always want the best for our clients, and we're a bit full of ego to the point where we're like, we want to help everybody that we see, whether they want our help or not, right? But the people that specifically come to see us, we're like, oh, we're definitely going to help them, or we hope that we can. But the truth of the matter is that we can't physically help every single person that we see, and we need to realize that. But the thing is, just because we can't physically help them doesn't mean we can't help them. Mm-hmm. Like, some people, we can't, it's just whatever our limitations are, right? We can't physically help them, but maybe they just needed someone to listen to them. Maybe they haven't had a practitioner listen to what they had to say, what their story was, what their pain is, what they're feeling. Maybe all they've had were practitioners that were just like, okay, you have this symptom, here, do this, here, do this, here, do this, and then write them off. Maybe they need somebody to listen about, like, whatever is going on in their personal life. Or they just need to vent to somebody. Like, anybody who's a personal trainer knows that you're not a personal trainer, you're a therapist, right? Yeah. You're a freaking psychotherapist, because all you have to do is just sit there and you babysit them while they do some physical activity, and all they do is just vent to you about their daily life. And sometimes that's just all that they need, and by that you can help them, right? And then there's other people where that's all fine, but they still can't feel, or they still don't feel well or whatever physically, and sometimes they don't know who to go to, right? And so then at that time, our job to help them is to give them the right direction, push them in the right direction, say, here, try these people, try these avenues, try these methods, and see if those work, because it doesn't seem like you've tried these things before. Here's I'm opening a box for you, and then allowing you to explore those things. And I have some people that that do this that you can go check out and start over there. So even though I'm not physically able to, or I'm not able to help you physically, these people might actually do that. And just that extra hope that you're giving them, that direction, that already is helping them, right? And then there's another way that we can help people by showing them that what they've been focusing on isn't their actual problem. And so what I mean by that, like, there's somebody that I specifically remember I was seeing in Singapore, and whenever I'm working in Asia, a lot of my clients there are I just see them one time, and then I basically do the problem solving, and then I refer them to whoever they need to go to see right there, right? And this was at the end of a trip where I basically squeezed in 3 weeks worth of work into 1 week. It was a lot. And this is the last client that I saw, and my brain was completely fried. And when he walked in, I was like, I don't know if my brain can work anymore because I'm just fried from all this thinking and working and whatever. That and this was a tough client too, because of course, like if I'm traveling, the people who get referred to me are going to be like, they're problem children, right? They're people who are mysterious, they're unicorns, they're, you know, they're those kind of people. So I was like, crap, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do for this guy. And so I was still determined to help him in some way, but I'm like, I don't know if I can help find what his problem is. But after listening to what he was telling me, I was like, maybe I can't help him with what his actual problem is, but maybe I can show him that his problem isn't where his focus is, right? And so he was focused all on his hip. He's like, oh, my hip hurts. I've been to so many PTs and therapists and movement specialists and this and that, the other thing, and nobody's been able to figure out what's wrong with my hip. And so what I told him was, hey, is it okay that we rule out your hip today? Will you allow me to do everything I know to your hip to make sure it is not your hip? So that this way, when you leave today, you don't go wasting your time on other people who are looking at your hip. Mm-hmm. And he thought about that. He's like, that's actually a really good idea because everybody's been looking at my hip and nothing's been helping. And so what I did was I ruled out the hip, right? I did everything that I could to that hip and made sure it wasn't the hip. I'm like, okay, cool. So now we know it's not the hip. Now let me just kind of poke around a little bit to see like where it might be. And I gave him like 2 or 3 places where I thought that might be a good place for him to look later, right? Because whenever people get referred to me in other countries, it's always, a lot of times it's practitioner referred. So I know what skill set those practitioners have. So I'm like, okay, well, when you go back to your therapist, have them work on or check out your neck, your shoulder, your this or that or whatever. And they gave them a couple more little trinkets to look at and little leads to look at that wasn't his hip that I knew based off of my skill set was actually related to his hip. Mm. And so that in itself helped that person, even though I didn't directly help him physically. It gave him a better direction and he didn't have to give any more fucks about his hip.
That's awesome.
Ultimately, yeah, like that comes back to reframing the medical industry, because right now the saddest part is that everybody essentially has to go through a general practitioner in order to get referred to by someone else, right? So ultimately the general practitioner should be the highest paid and the most valuable person that should be the most educated in all realms, holistic or traditional or whatever it is, right? So if the system can be altered just a little bit, that the people who go to become GPs are the main referral networks for everybody else. And they understand this person needs movement, this person needs, gut stuff, this person needs a hormone change, this person needs whatever it is, and then send them to those practitioners and refer out. I feel like that would be a very, very, it shouldn't actually be too hard to implement something like that. At least just put new people in the forefront. That's ultimately what we need.
I think it's actually 2-pronged right there. I think number one, yes, you're right. It should be something in the GP industry, not necessarily the medical industry, but the GP industry, because they're general practitioners. But I also think that there should be a shift in our education system, because our education system as it stands right now in the US absolutely sucks for preparing people for real life. I mean, that's why so many people right now are struggling financially, because their parents never taught them, or their school never taught them that you should always have like 6 months of living expenses saved up in case of a rainy day or a pandemic, right? And so that's why so many people are stuck in this. So I think I think our education system as a whole, which includes our culture, because several of you guys here teach internationally, and you guys are like, yeah, there's a different mindset in those other countries. And I think a lot of it is the culture and the education system. And part of it is the education system isn't only the education system, it is the culture that ties in with it, right? Like I was teaching in Korea and we're talking about like chiropractics, and they're like, oh, chiropractics, there's no such thing as a chiropractor in Korea. It's all illegal, but everybody knows how to do it, right? It's like an efficient thing that everybody knows how to do. If you need an adjustment, you just go to your grandma and she'll adjust you, right? And,
That's awesome.
and that's the thing, right? It gets passed down, right? I mean, even like Chinese medicine with like herbs and acupressure, stuff like that, right? Like moms and dads and grandmas and aunts, we all know that. Like, I mean, ask Andi this. Like,
I learned gua sha and cupping and massage when I was like 4 years old in Taiwan.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did gua sha on my mom and my aunt with the back of a spoon when I was little, because they're like, oh yeah, just do this and just keep doing it. And, you know, and that's how I learned, you know, my first gua sha stuff. And then like medicine through food and temperature and herbs and that kind of stuff. Like that's education that's passed down through the culture and traditions, right? Stuff that actually works. And what I'm finding out especially in the US is that we don't really have that, right? And part of it is because it's such a mixed culture that everybody also wants to assimilate to the American way, that we've got cultures that are purposely not teaching their kids their mother language, their traditions and their cultures, because they want them to be more American. And it's biting us in the ass right now as a country, to the point where we want to be so American that we've lost all the good stuff that we had in our history. You know, so I think, Andi, yes, you're absolutely right that the medical industry as a GP does need to change, because they need to know who to refer out to. But also I think for the people to know who to go to and who to know like where to go, we need to also do a better job of teaching our kids and our community and our people, the people that we have a direct effect with.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
And I got to think that's going to be better in the future. I mean, there's certain people, I mean, I don't want to be prejudiced and pin down a certain age, but, you know, somebody who's like 80 plus or whatever is going to be more set in their ways, you know, to the old way of thinking. And, you know, people are learning, you know, through the internet and all sorts of ways, and through people like us. It's going to change, and the clients and the patients will help, you know, drive the demand for that type of those types of services.
For sure. Yeah, and I feel like this is going full circle to the whole COVID thing, because like I feel like one of the biggest events where every single person in the human has been affected at some way or another, and it's making the world see it's a rude awakening for the world to see like how other countries are able to contain it and work with it and shift their systems so fast and be able to adapt to the new situation, whereas others are lagging behind. And then so countries are like, oh shit, okay, other people actually do stuff better than we do. Maybe, just maybe, we need to learn a little bit from them. So more and more people are questioning the system that they're learning right now because of this global catastrophe, which is going to hopefully start altering change like after or during, like right now, but then hopefully we'll have like decades of repercussions based on the lessons that we learned in this era of weird times.
Yeah, we get a D+ for effort right now. I think we're not doing a great job.
Yeah, it is very, very interesting to see like how everybody is responding completely differently, and everybody has their own opinions, right? Like everybody thinks they're right, and everybody thinks, oh yeah, if you just do this, everything will be better. I'm like, I'm pretty sure the people up there who are controlling all of this stuff have thought of that too, and it still didn't work, which is why we're still in the shit we're in right now, you know. So
just don't put it on Facebook, you'll be all right.
Yeah. So I actually had this conversation. I had Dr. Kelly Starrett on my podcast yesterday, and we were talking to him about reopening the gyms, because I was talking to the other guy that I run a gym with, and they're tentatively planning on reopening May 1st. And I'm like, ooh, I don't think that's a good idea, because A, my wife still has to go to work in a hazmat suit, and B, my wife still has to go to work in a hazmat suit. Like, what are we doing? Like, are we just, because we're bored and we need something to do, and you can't figure out how to work out at your house without somebody telling you how to do this? Because like, I can do online personal training. Like, what's like, we're freaking out. Like, and you know, people are trying to reopen not grocery stores, but restaurants and bars and stuff. And just because of the life that we're used to, once it gets shook, everybody starts freaking out, because, you know, now we're preaching, oh, America, freedom. And like, yeah, I have the freedom to not open my gym when all you guys are. I can stay closed as long as I want, maybe not even have a gym anymore. Who knows? Like, this is an unprecedented time. And it was really interesting just talking to him about his ideas. And he's like, we're not opening for a while either, because this is all super crazy. And what I keep saying is this should feel like an overreaction, and it does. And so we're doing a good job, kind of. But now when I go out into town to get groceries, everybody's out and everybody's hanging around each other. And now we're starting to get like protests, and you're just like, oh my God, all right, do your thing. I'll just keep hanging out at my house and see how it goes.
Yeah, I guess, but it's helping other people think about the what ifs, right? Because we all have that on our head. It's like, oh, what if I run out of money? What if I didn't save enough? What if I didn't do enough for this person or whatever it is? And now in that situation, we actually living that what if moment. And because we have that little bit, that lot of stress, it's making us think, okay, what other stuff can we actually do right now? Like that's where alternative things are coming through. People are doing more stuff like this on Zoom. And some people are just tagging along saying, oh, everybody's doing this, so I might as well do it. But then you get that smaller population of people that are like, oh shit, I can create something that no one has ever even thought about. And that's their what if. So yeah, I'm just curious to see, like, does anybody have like their most like creative thing that came out of this so far? Like, what was that one light bulb that was like, holy shit, that is something really, really cool that they implemented, like, when this all happened?
So for me, it's just the remedial massage therapist, going after them. They don't have any idea how to help people if they're not on their table. And so I'm going to start a online coaching practice where I teach massage therapists how to do online consults with people, and what products they can use, what products their clients can use within their household to help them get better and to start working on self-maintenance and self-care.
Yeah, Joe, anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. I pivoted and created an online PE class for elementary school kids and special education as well. So I have 3 days a week, and it's all according to California state guidelines. I host a kindergarten through third grade class, a fourth through sixth grade class, and a special ed class, which unfortunately is just not being attended. And this has also allowed me to really focus on my fibromyalgia program that I've been working on for quite a few months. I'm finally getting down to filming everything and creating that as a product that's going to be out, sometime in the future, which is also going to then piggyback onto the fact that I'm creating an entire course for therapists and clinicians and trainers on how to work with people who have fibromyalgia. So this has allowed me to really focus on some things that I wanted to do, but also to create something where I saw a need. I saw the need in my own house where my stepdaughter who's high functioning Asperger's, she didn't get any guidelines for her physical education. Yeah, she's 13 years old, but somebody like that really needs that stuff. And these kids are just sitting home, sitting on their ass and playing video games, and their parents are letting them do that. And then my one point of emphasis is, hey, this is developmental for your kids. What I do with my clientele is the same thing I'm doing with your kids. That my base, my foundation is rooted in childhood development. And if your kids aren't moving like they should be, then they're going to go back to school and they're going to be developmentally behind the rest of their kids too.
Awesome, man.
Great stuff.
Yeah,
thank you.
Real good.
Harry, I'm curious about you. Like, has anything shifted besides getting banned through Facebook and stuff?
TikTok.
Yeah. I think you're muted.
Muted, Perry.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Stuff was so crazy it drove me to join TikTok, but I said I'd never do it till I'm dead. But I haven't posted anything on there yet. I haven't made the leap, but I joined doing baby steps. But you know what? It's I was talking to somebody before on an Instagram live today. It's for 5 years I've been nonstop, go on the gas pedal everywhere, right? And I just didn't know who I was when I wasn't going somewhere, because that's all I did, right? So it's been a really great time for me to step back and instead of just keep doing so much, to slow down, and I really began to focus a lot. Somebody said a word to me that really hit home. I talk about the word simplicity a lot, but they used the word practical, and that's something I've been toying with right now, because I think one of the things that I discovered is that there's so many things out there for people to do, and they're overwhelmed, but they don't do it because it's just not practical. So I've really started to focus now on siphoning things down to make it very practical, simple, and something that people will do. And I was always heading towards an online format. That was my goal. I was always preparing for the apocalypse, I tell you. And then it just sped that process up on doing that. And I don't know if I'll go back to teaching as much as I was on the road after this. I say that now, but when they lift the curtain, I'll probably keep going again. But I think that's what it is just taking it, making even the stuff that I do now be more practical and more simple.
That's awesome.
I got to bounce, guys, but it's been fun. It's been real.
Awesome.
Hey, it was good to see you, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, good to see you, Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah, Andy, actually, I've got to head out too, and I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of doing this and including me in this. I'm highly honored that you thought of me, and it's really great to meet so many people I haven't met before, but I've heard of all of you.
Awesome, man. Anytime,
Thank
dude.
you.
This was so much fun. Love
Well,
it.
Thank you.
See you, Carl. It was good to meet
I'm
you.
going to head out and help my wife cook dinner. We've got some plans here happening, but thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing the rest of this when it's posted.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, man. Take it easy, bud.
Let's do it again, man. See you guys later.
Oh, yeah.
See you, bud.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Dennis, thanks for starting to post some stick mobility workouts. That's really awesome. I've been catching the replays every week.
That's awesome.
You there?
President San Fran.
Whoa.
Super frozen.
Super frozen.
That's a great face over there. Oh, man, this is interesting. Yeah, I had no idea how it was going to turn out, but I was just like, fuck it. Let's
General public.
see what happens. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Hey, Dennis is back.
So being able to put those workouts out has been really beneficial. And really, if our mission statement is just movement made better, I mean that's our whole intent. And during something like this, it's not about what tool you're using. It's just about teaching people how to just simply move better. So to be able, and especially in a time like this, to be able to bring something of value to people that are stuck at home or whatever, I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
They've been really fun, so I appreciate that.
And you stumbled across the perfect tool because, like, you literally don't need any other thing besides that. It's just awesome. You know, like, so many people have their home gym setup that they need, like, all the dumbbells and kettlebells and all that stuff. Like, no. Just have a couple of sticks. And, like, you don't need that much space, and you get just as good of a workout. It's freaking awesome.
Right on, guys.
It's funny to see isometrics finally starting to slowly have an uptick and an awareness, and so that's really good to see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks for having me, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.
See you later, Jesse.
See you, Jesse.
See ya.
Thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.
All right, man.
Yep.
Take it
See
easy.
you later, Russ.
Thank
Happy
you.
bounce. Andy, thanks for putting this together, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Man, appreciate it. Thanks for joining. So much fun.
All right, buddy. Look forward to doing another one, buddy.
Yeah. Sweet.
Bye, Andy. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Rodrigo.
Take it easy.
See ya. All right, I go too, guys. Thank you.
Peace. Thank you.
Dropping like flies.
That's so interesting. Yeah, feel free to hang out. I still got some time, but yeah.
Where are you right now?
I'm in my office. So yeah, at the gym, the guy I was subletting to, like, he opened up his own space. So I was like, sweet. I could either choose to yeah, like rent the space out and take another year and a half finding someone to rent it. Or I was like, fuck it, if I just get one more client, I can essentially pay for this room myself. So,
Nice.
yeah, so my filming studio set is like in the back over there.
Awesome.
And then, yeah, and then this is where I do all my computer work and stuff.
Nice.
So, yeah, and I have privacy. So when Ryan's training and stuff, then I can actually still film without, yeah, having noise pop in and everything. So, yeah. It's been fun building this place out. So I like built the desk, I built this little thing, and yeah, got a new computer so I could edit all the videos. It's been a trip.
I hope you're not doing it in the middle of the night, man.
Huh?
I hope you're not doing it in the middle of the night.
No, it's actually good that I have like my high powered PC here, because when I leave the gym, I don't take anything back home with me. Like it's there. There was probably like 2 times last year we had to answer a few more emails. Or for a workshop like yours or something like that. Ultimately, like when I leave, like I don't touch my computer or work or anything like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Sweet, dude. What else have you guys been up to? Joe, Scott, haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, Scott, what you been up to, man?
Hey there, Joe. Hey, Ruben. Well, I mean, it's what we've all been up to. It's just pivoting, adapting, taking care of family, taking care of, I still have a clinic where the doors are technically open. So hopefully in the next couple of months, it'll stay open. I've definitely been putting more effort into building an online system, platform, etc. But I think if I step back and think about what has changed for me, it's that I'm thinking about different groups of people to help than I did 3 months ago. I'm thinking about healthcare workers. I'm thinking about first responders and trying to provide solutions to contacts I already have, just reaching out and saying, hey, will this help out? And I think that's what it's all about. We don't always get to change a system, whether it's the medical system or the insurance system or who knows, but we have a profound opportunity to change people and to touch people. So if anything, I feel like I'm busier than ever because of that.
That's great.
Good.
How about you, Joe?
An interesting train of thought.
I'm busier than ever too, which is kind of funny. This has just allowed me to really focus on building this program that I've been working on for so long. I've actually, this is the 3rd incarnation of it. I've scrapped it twice because I put way too much thought into it, and things were just a little too much, too intense. So I've really dialed it back to just a real simple form to be able to develop 3 different levels of physical movement and competency for people with fibromyalgia, because I've been working with so many different people, and I've consulted with so many different people. Now I've had a really good mix and idea of what people really need. So this has allowed me to kind of just step back and get out of my own way and concentrate on just putting this stuff on film finally. And that's been my biggest thing that I've been doing. I've also been filming my PE classes, that's going to allow me to put that online to, finally get some more parents eyeballs on this and just get their kids moving in the way they are. So, just really focusing on trying to build the things that I've been wanting to do that I haven't had the time to do. And, I'm lucky that I still have, keys to this gym that I can come in here and nobody's here, and I have no distractions, where if I'm at home, this is not just happening at all. So I'm working 8 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, putting all this stuff together, writing the content, still writing my book, and, just really working on the things that I've wanted to do where I haven't been able to.
That's awesome, man.
Nice,
I'm glad you have the motivation to do that. It took me a while to get into that mind frame. Like, okay, now I have the time. But yeah, for me, it was interesting because like the first 2 weeks I was like, yay, got time, no motivation, don't want to do fucking shit. And then I had 1 week where I was like, cool, really motivated, got some stuff done. And then all of a sudden, like I started doing online classes and all of that type of stuff. And then all of a sudden I have no time again. I'm like, I'm busy all of a sudden. I'm like, fuck, I'm never going to have time to film. So it's always like that, like when you're busy, you always find time to make the important stuff work. So even when I was super busy training, 8 hours a day, I was still making time to film my content and stuff. And now that now I'm back to busy, I'm still making time to film the content. It's just, and then when I'm not busy, like you don't have the motivation to do so. So it's just like, for me, like just finding that pattern of, hey, when do I actually need to do this stuff, and keep going from there. It's so interesting to see like your own brain work in situations like this, because you end up calling yourself out on your own bullshit quite a lot. And as long as you own up to it and you be like, okay, it's time for a change, and then work on that, like better things start happening.
The adage of moderation is key is bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the toughest thing to stay moderately, like, at something. It's, I don't know. Yeah, it's so interesting.
We're all closet extremists, and we need to admit that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm like always trying to fight that, it's like, oh no, I want to be balanced. And then you're always just like, fuck, you just have these, you can be balanced at one thing and then something else starts losing it. And then it's just like this whole freaking cycle of stuff.
Dude, there's no such thing as balance. Balance is just one point that everyone's trying to get to. But I mean, we're all movements. So you know that in order to maintain this quote unquote balance, you have to keep working. You have to keep doing stuff. You go back and forth and you oscillate around and through this point of balance that you'll never achieve to eternity. Like there's no such thing. You have to keep moving to achieve that. And sometimes you teeter this way, sometimes you totter that way, and then sometimes you're in the middle for a split second, and then you're teetering tottering again. So no such thing as true balance.
Yep.
And it's interesting because we have less variables than we did before, but we're just as busy and have found different things. So even with less variables and less things pulling you one direction or the other, there still seems to be all of a sudden all these new variables that we didn't expect that are now pulling.
Yeah. I mean, like we always have that excuse that we don't have time for stuff. And then you'll always not have time to not have time, because you always end up finding excuses to do the stuff that you should be doing, but don't, it's like a lot of my clients are like, I'm like busier than I ever am before, because now that, we're, like programmers and stuff still have to code and everything like that. And now like half the people aren't working, so they get pushed more work. And then other people are like, oh, I'm finding so much more. I'm being really, really busy because now I'm gardening and doing all of those things. And they like always like, the whole day is stacked, but it's just doing stuff that they're not used to doing, which is, it's nice to break that cycle every once in a while and like hone in on like, what do you actually truly value and what's actually important.
Yeah. This is the time where you need to take advantage of the things that are important. Like, that's exactly what I've been doing. It's the first week, I felt like I was getting my head kicked in every which way, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't, find which way was up. And then I just refocused. I found a solution to a problem that I saw in my own house. And then I found that, okay, now that I have more time, I'm not training as many clients. This is the time that I've been looking for the past few months. I've been developing this program. Like, it's now time to take advantage of this. Like, this is the only time I'm going to have this much time. Once this is all over, things are going to be different. You got to take advantage of it.
For sure. Yeah.
And it's also about understanding that we are not just like done for work and just going forward. I mean, for me, here in Costa Rica, everybody's like following the same advice. Like, if you're not writing a book, if you're not studying a lot, you're wasting your time, whatever. But I realize now that if you stop and if you observe what is going on, instead of just going, maybe I personally have better thoughts. I am more like focused on the things that I need to put my energy on it. And at the end of the week and at the end of the month, the work is going forward, even if I am not pushing it as hard like every day. But focusing on the things that matter. If I get to sleep, if I get to breathe, if I get to see my family, then I get to work. And that's the way I see it, because here in Latin America, everybody's like freaking out about money, about economic stuff, and they think they have to do more in order to get out of this. And maybe the answer is not to do that more. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not just going because of going. And for me personally has been like a game changer these days. It's been, I don't know, I just love this COVID thing because it's like it's the perfect setup to have time for yourself and then focus on what you want. If you want to help people, if you want to program, if you want to whatever, it's like, I don't know, it's being great that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to focus. We're utilizing this time when it's actually very still to work on more stillness. Because like my brain always goes at like fucking 350 miles an hour, and it's very, very hard to shut it down. So like when everything is quiet, like my brain spins even faster, and I'm like, if I can teach my body to be able to calm down, not through movement, but just by being still, and finding peace through that, that's going to be a very, very fun thing to mess around with. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I had a Reiki session yesterday, and she mentioned like the whole like different ideas of like meditation is, she quoted this so well. It's like meditation or finding stillness is literally just increasing the space between thoughts. And I was like, fuck, that is
Nice.
so good. Like I never thought about it that way before, because like which relates straight back to Wayne Dwyer's thing is like, you never hear a symphony without the rest, right? It's like music and rhythms and stuff. It's between the pauses that actually make music, or else everything is just noise, right? So, and that's essentially where stillness is, that beauty, that calmness, that oomph. It comes from just increasing space between something. And I was like, oh, that is a beautiful way to put it, that I've never heard it like anywhere else. And it just makes you like, oh, you just feel it and you're like, get it now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
I got to head out, guys.
Yeah.
Andy, thanks for putting this together.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to see you, brother.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
You too, man.
Later.
I'm gonna head out too. I'm hungry.
All right. Sounds good. All right. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye, Jackie.
Bye.
Take care.
Scott, we still got to finish our plan for the workshop.
Yes, we do. But I'll tell you, I just want to follow up on what you're just saying, that observation of expanding the duration.
Mm-hmm.
So that's high level interval training.
Yeah.
You're training the interval. You're training the space between. And the opportunity to prioritize the space between the inhale and the exhale, not just mentally, metaphorically, literally in your own training. If you're sitting in meditation, if you're sitting at your desk, it's so interesting if you're setting your intent to hang out in the interval. So as you exhale, and this is what snipers do, as you exhale, there's a natural calming down of the heart rate. There's a natural sinking of chi, and you're preparing for that interval. And so some people, or I should say a lot of people, really struggle with meditation because they're mentally so active. But one of the opportunities is just treat it like a concentration exercise. It's not about the 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 60 minutes of meditation. It's just about the next interval. As you exhale, you're preparing. The training is that interval, that pause.
Nice.
As you inhale, you're just exploring the what if between the pause between the inhale and exhale. I see it as such a big opportunity to change our perception, our framing of the assumption of how we go through life, or the assumption of how we're sitting, quote unquote, still. So I just wanted to share that for your own practice.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'll definitely implement that. That's super, super helpful. Yeah, it's but it's also interesting because that like almost relates to HRV too, right? Because ultimately HRV is just the space between two heartbeats, right? And then either that length or the duration, or the more synergistic that is, the better your HRV is, which means increasing recovery, increasing and breathing mechanics, all of that type of stuff. So it's like, that's so interesting that so many things is literally just focusing on the space between two things, or the interval. I love it. That's cool. Sweet.
Yeah, and for me personally, as Scott was saying, it's been for years like a big trouble to get still and breathe, because I've been like thinking, and I'm saying to myself like, oh, this is not working for me. I'm not good at it, right? But the more I see different perspectives about what it is to be aware, what it is to be present, is about you're getting better if you are coming back to the breath, or you're coming back to whatever that means, whatever you're doing, not having like zero thoughts or like a clear mind, but to come back to that practice, whatever you are like focusing on this space that Scott's mentioning, or just doing the take 10 technique or whatever. And that for me has been amazing, because now I am not fighting to myself like, shut up, I'm just getting back. I'm just getting back, not just during my practice of 10, 15 minutes, but during the day when I am actually doing things that matter, like communicating with another human being. I don't care if he's talking about chocolates, but I am there. Even if my mind's going, then in the past, the guy stop talking about chocolates. I'm like, oh my God, what was he was talking, right? And I think that's powerful now, because if you get to be present in the things that matter during the day, I actually feel that we are gonna make better decisions. I mean, joining this type of calls, how you approach the client these days, I am not approaching with just high intensity like everybody here. You should see people here in Costa Rica training. Oh my God. They're just trying to crash themselves in 30 minutes in the living room to get out of the stress, So this is the kind of stuff that right now, I think the best advice for the people around is like, stop. I don't care what you want to do, but just do it. It doesn't have to be productive. It doesn't have to be healthy. It doesn't have to be, I don't know. It's just do it. And I think people need that. People need practitioners like us and doctor, whatever, to say, how are you? Do whatever you want, smile, and come back. It's like, it's that simple. And I don't know. It's been wonderful this time. And I really appreciate Andi to just invite me to this. And well, I haven't met Andi Segur, the other Andi. Nice to meet you, man. And
nice to meet you.
It's always good to see Scott, and anything you need. I'm more than open to have this education for practitioners, to people, to clients around. Latin America is yours, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, definitely. Once all this is over and I get my passport, I'm fucking traveling everywhere. Oh man, I love it. Any parting words, or we're good to go?
Good to go. Thanks for putting it together.
Thank you, man.
Yes, thank you very much, man.
Awesome. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Good on you, Andy.
Thanks
for doing
it. Appreciate it. Take care, you guys. We'll catch up soon.
All right,
guys.
Perfect.
All right,
bye, everybody.
Keep it up.
Sweet. Take it easy.